Hey everyone, it's Retro Jojo back again for another video, and in this video I want to talk about a game that was released in 2002, and that is Terminator Dawn of Fate. So strap in and hasta la vista, baby. So Terminator Dawn of Fate is a prequel to both the original Terminator movie and the second one, Judgment Day. Two great movies. The rest of the movies in the series are okay, in my opinion. But yeah, I'm going to talk about this game. Show the artwork. First of all, I'll show the artwork for the game. I don't know if my camera will pick this up. Love that artwork on the front. And then, of course, you've got the back. The top is actually covered by stickers. Then, of course, you got your rating at the bottom and some shots of the game. It says, test your metal in close quarters melee combat. Punish your adversaries with an arsenal of devastating weaponry. Play as 3 unique TechCom soldiers in the struggle to save mankind. Switch to first-person mode for precision targeting. And face the legendary T-800 and never-before-seen cybernetic assassins. So in the game, you get to play, you're trying, like I said, it's a prequel to the first 2 movies. And if you've seen Terminator before, or Terminator 2 Judgment Day, you know what happens in those movies. But basically, the game kind of takes place as their uprise. You know, you have John Connor, and he's trying to basically take down Skynet, and your job is kind of to protect him to start with. They have a invasion attack from Skynet, you know, with hunter-killer droids, you know, T-600s and stuff like that everywhere, and a bunch of different prototypes, and because there's like prototypes that attack you too. Never really seen those before, but it's interesting to see kind of where it started and then where, you know, eventually it led into the first movie. So I thought that was really cool. You know, you have some prototypes. They don't really have a faceplate or anything yet, or their body's all rusted because it's like one of the first models maybe, or something like that. I don't know. But you take them down with an arsenal of different weapons, and you have like a melee attack. And in that, there are some, let's talk about the gameplay real quick. Let's talk about the gameplay a little bit. Gameplay wise, the game is okay. It plays a lot like another game that I love. It's a series, and that's Devil May Cry. Now, Devil May Cry, you know, if you compare the two, that's this Terminator game, Dawn of Fate, and then you compare it to like Devil May Cry as a series as a whole, you can see a lot of similarities between the two. And I think that can be a good thing and that could be a bad thing. Because in that, yes, Devil May Cry is an awesome series of games. And there's even an anime on it. And I think there might be some manga too, I'm not sure. But it's great. And the camera angle that they used in Devil May Cry works specifically for Devil May Cry. So that's great, you know, in and of itself for Devil May Cry, because it works. However, in this Terminator game, it works half the time. Either for you or against you, however you're doing it. Now, you do have the option to switch between third person and first person, but I found that if you do third person, it has its ups, because there are some weapons that you can get that are good for long range or close range, you know, especially like your explosive weapons, or like eventually you get like this fusion cutter type of thing, and it just makes them spaz out, and you get one that kind of is like a repulse gun type of thing. It'll make them kind of glitch. They'll kind of freeze. But I mean, as far as gameplay wise, that working, it always aims for like the torso. And I've seen other YouTubers say the same thing. Like, if you could aim in third person, 007 Everything or Nothing did it perfectly. You could aim, you could move the like targeting reticle where you wanted it to go at within your target. Like this, it'd be like that, and you had like an area, and it would show their health. Like, it was green, yellow, red, and if it was black, that means, you know, you've gotten your target taken down. But you could aim high if you knew where you were going and get a a quick kill. I don't like to say that word, but that's what it is. Because of YouTube guy, anyway. But you could get a quick, snipe type deal. You could, if you get a bot, you get a shot towards the body in that game, it might take them down a couple hits. See, that's where this game fails, because in third person, it's going to always aim in the torso area of these machines. So it's always going to take more than one hit to take them down. But if you use the first person, you're stationary, which means you can't move in the first person view. And not that I found when playing it. I tried. And so you have to kind of move back in third person, then go to first person. Then move. It's repetitive. It gets old quick. But visually, we'll talk about the visuals. The game, it's not the best looking game in the world. It's not going to win any kind of, award or anything like that, especially now. I mean, they just, I ordered the new Terminator game. It's new to me. I didn't even know it had come out. Resistance. So I'm waiting to get that game. It hasn't come yet. It's running behind getting to me. But as soon as I do get it, I plan to review that, and we'll kind of look and see what we're looking at as far as from this game to that game. We'll see how we're how they compare, I guess, maybe, or I'll just review that game as a whole. But at the same time, with the visuals, the cutscenes aren't all that great, because they could have did full rendered cutscenes, like made the cutscenes a little more upscale than the actual gameplay. But they kind of tried to stay the root, because again, like Devil May Cry is like animated, right? It's like animated kind of, it's like Japanese anime. It works for that. It's kind of like a mix between human and animated, what have you. But in this game, it feels like it falls behind, and it, like I said, it was 02, so it's kind of in that limbo era, where it's not terrible, but it's not like low res. It's pretty low resolution, but it's not terrible to the point where it's unplayable, if that makes any sense. I feel like the game, as far as the weapons and everything, it plays great. I like the array of weapons. They do get a little repetitive after a while, but it's a lot of fun. I enjoyed the game. A lot of people complain about the soundtrack. I thought the soundtrack was decent. It's not, it's not the best in the world. And does it sound like the Terminator movies that it's a precursor to, or a prequel to rather? No, it does not. But does that mean that it's a terrible soundtrack? No, it does not. It's not terrible. I've heard a lot worse in video games, and in some games that I even like. So if that's anything to go by, I think it's a great game. Sorry, everybody. My ankle was itching really bad. If you're wondering what I'm fidgeting for, my ankle was itchy. Sorry, everyone. Technical difficulty, but it. Where was I? Oh, talking about the like weapons and the gameplay. I mean, it's a well, or a good enough game rather. It's just, it's not on par with some of the games that come after it. But it's not terrible. And the soundtrack, that's what I was talking about. Refresh my memory. The soundtrack, it's fine. The soundtrack is great for what it is. It sounds, some of the songs even sound like a mix between something like Slipknot and I don't know, maybe, I don't like to compare it to Metallica, but there is one particular track that does sound like it belongs on Iowa, possibly, on a Slipknot album. And that's kind of crazy that, this game was using that style of music, because the first film, it's very ominous. It's very kind of sci-fi thriller. A lot of people get mad when I use the word horror, but you know, the T-800's chasing them down to kill Sarah Connor's unborn, you know, taking her out, effectively taking John Connor out, and he would never have been born. Love those movies, but we're here to talk about the game right now. So, now, here's where you get into what I love the most about this game. The story. There's only 10 missions. It's not, you know, it's not that long. I played it on easy. I couldn't imagine playing it on hard now. On hard, it would probably be really difficult to finish the game. But on easy, it's doable. On medium, I'm sure it's doable once you know what you're doing and you know the game mechanics. The game mechanics can take some getting used to. They can. It takes time, and you have to be willing to put in the time to do it, or to play it, rather. And the story, though, is great. You know, it starts, like I said, there's an invasion of the Skynet hunter-killer droid, I guess you call them cyborgs, not really droids, but cyborgs. I guess I had Star Wars on the brain there for a second. Battle droids, something like that. Something was on my mind other than what I'm talking about, right? So anyway, you have your hunter-killer droids invading the base. And then you find out that this guy and his brother actually died during combat because of them. And there's like 3 characters you can play as in the game. Now you don't play as John Connor, even though he's like the main character of this game as well. You know, the one that you're protecting, the one that you're trying to protect. And not during the entire game, but just as a whole. You know, they're trying to win the war, and unbeknownst to them, actually, they're trying to keep John safe. So anyhow, you play as you play as a girl in one of the missions, a couple of them actually, 1 or 2 of them, named Catherine, and then you play as his name has slipped my mind. Anyway, he has a lot of the rockets and everything, and I can't remember his name. It's just slipping my mind. But he's got like a really cool, like, very 90s Mike Tyson looking face tattoo. Very cool. Very different. And then of course you play as Kyle Reese, and Kyle Reese, you're playing as him most of the game. But you find out that this guy named, I think his name was Alex, and then Gabriel was his brother, Alex and Gabriel Stone. I can't believe I can't remember the other guy's name. I memorized it, and now it's slipping my mind. It'll come back to me, but maybe. But you play as these characters, and you go through these missions, and you're basically doing just minimal tasks. You know, you're kind of taking down the Skynet cyborgs, the hunter killers, excuse me, and you run into some new enemies. But one of the things that really ramped up the combat, because you fight like a loader droid in one level, and I was actually getting vibes from that because of how slow the battle was once you know what you're doing, and you're not in a hurry, and you take your time with it. Once you really know what you're doing, that battle almost looks like Batman Return of the Joker, like the one on the 64, and I think it was on the PS1 as well. Maybe I could be wrong about that as well, but that's what it felt like. You know, when you fight the dude with the crane, yeah, that's kind of how this one of these boss battles, I think it was one of the first ones in the game, how it felt. Now, when you play as Catherine, because the story develops up until the point, you kind of play as the first 2, the guy that I mentioned earlier, and you play as Reese. And Reese gets captured because he runs in through the subway, spoiler alert, and there's all these people that he has to rescue in these subways. And it's very it's building to this point. You know, all the missions that you've done before, all the other 5 or 6 that you do at this point, have built to this point that you're at now. And then it's like the game just ramps up from there. You know, it's kind of like it builds, and then it just ramps up, and it just gets better and better and better, to me, in my opinion. I enjoyed it. It was a very fun game. But it builds to the point where they're kind of going to war with the machines, you know, like how you see in the flashbacks in the first movie. to him, Reese telling the story to Sarah Connor, John Connor's mother, and you get to see a lot more of that and kind of act it out in a way. It's like you're doing the role playing. You kind of knew this was coming, and it's like you're role playing as Kyle or the other guy or Catherine in these other scenarios. Once the game, like I said, once it gets past a certain point, it ramps up. But what makes it interesting is it has a storyline that kind of deviates from the norm, and Alex and his brother have actually sided, and his brother's still alive. Like, it's kind of like a, I don't know if they faked his death. It's really not really in combat, but it's really not like specified what happened. But they made like these things that go over. They were like basically harvesting humans. Like they were keeping humans, taking them hostage. I guess hostage is a good way to say it. They were taking them hostage, and then what they do is they put these devices on them. They almost look like the Borg from Star Trek, and you know it goes over like the eye, or it goes over the side of the head, kind of like Lobot. Even was it Lobot from Star Wars? Was it Lobot or was it Lebo? I think it was Lebo. Anyway, that thing where he's got the ring around his head, and then Lando activates it. Anyway, that's what it kind of looked like. It was either one or the other. And these devices allow them to control these people, and it's really interesting because then you have to start taking down people trying to take Alex trying to get information as Kyle, and then Alex actually takes Reese hostage, and you have to go in as Catherine. Now, this is where the game gets really interesting to me, because as Catherine, you kind of try to infiltrate, and you fight all these new enemies that they had never seen before, and it's like the walkers. It looks like a walker, but it's a hunter-killer type, and it's very interesting. You fight a couple of them, and then you fight this real big one outside of the asylum that Alex has taken over as a base, and using, and for all of the purposes that him and his brother were using it for, they turned it into like a research facility. What's interesting is when you go after Kyle to take him back with you, you take Alex hostage and work through taking out his goons. He runs away from you, gets away from you, and then you find him in this room, right, where you kind of trek, back, and here comes this dude in this cloak, and he's holding this he's walking towards Catherine and Kyle. This is one of my favorite things of the whole game. I thoroughly enjoyed this. It was probably even better than the ending. I mean, the ending was good, but this was my favorite part. This is why I would replay this game. If for nothing else, I would replay it for this, and that I like Devil May Cry, and the fact I would love to give it a try on medium difficulty. But anyway, I don't know about hard difficulty, but we'll try the medium difficulty and we'll see what happens. But this dude's walking towards you, and then Alex is trying to get away, and he says, "Hi, he'll take you down," or something like that, what I've been waiting for. And he takes the cloak, no, he leaves the cloak on, and he starts firing at them with this like plasma Gatling gun looking thing. And Catherine tells Reese to get out of there. He has orders from Connor himself to, protect him. And she gives him, one of her like submachine guns, and tells him to go. And then you're left to fight this. It's a T-800. Spoiler. It's like the one that like Arnold was with the skin and everything. And you fight this dude through 3 segments throughout this asylum. Like, he's just like chasing you down. Oh, it was perfect. It was so, if they did that again, and I'm sure in the game, like I said, in Terminator Resistance, I'll get to see some of that in action, but that's what I live for with this specific game. It is so well done. It's so just great, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Because just when I thought the fight was over, his skin comes off, all right? And then the more that you shoot him in the second stage when he's fighting you, and he's like running towards you and trying to knock you down and stuff, and he'll jump up in the air and do shock waves down on the ground, and it'll just destroy your health if you don't have enough health packs. And then when you finish that, I thought it was over. I was waiting on a cutscene, and then my life starts going down. So I start using med packs, right, to heal myself. And I look down, and this dude, this T-800, is at her feet trying to claw at her. How cool is that? It's just like the movies, right? So, yeah, I just thought that was like, wow. They did this in '02. Imagine how that other game's going to look, right? And it was very well done. Yeah, I just felt like I was fighting Arnold myself. You know, the Arnold's Terminator. He almost looked like it a little bit when he loses the cloak and everything, and then he's got part of the skin showing and part of the cybernetics underneath the cyborg parts. It was awesome. Then he's guarding with his arm like he was before, but there's no skin left. It's just the cybernetic arm, and it was awesome. And then you move to the next thing, and in the next segment, it's like you're going through this facility as Kyle Reese, Skynet, and you go through the entire building and do all these minuscule tasks and little tasks here and there and stuff like that. But then John Connor lets you know that you're going back in time, actually, because there is a T-800 that's being sent back in time to 1984 to basically take out his mother, effectively taking him out in the process, and it will, ensure Skynet's future in the future. And so Kyle says, well, I won't come back from this well. And he said, I'm sorry, Kyle, there's no other way. So you fight through the facility, fight a couple of these guardian droids that are on these walls as the walls go up. And then you get to the top of the tower eventually. It takes a long time. It's one of the longest levels in the game. You fight a lot of different... Sorry, I had an itch. You fight a lot of different kinds of, Terminators throughout it. You get to use turrets and shoot at the outside to protect your troops, almost like a tower defense thing. That's where the Slipknot track kind of comes in. It sounds like a Slipknot track. It's just so cool. It's just very, very interesting what they were trying to do back then. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I enjoyed it from the beginning, even at the beginning when I thought, because I started playing it a while back, and I was like, I don't know, man, this game's kind of, it's kind of slow, but once I got going with it, man, I really enjoyed the ride. And then, of course, Kyle goes back in time, and it's funny, it leaves his clothes behind. You get to see the T-800 go, and he's like, nail it down, and he's got it's just a silhouette, kind of like it's not very well animated, but it's like he's nude in a way, or he is nude, but it looks, you can see it from afar. You kind of see him as you're coming up on him, and then he's gone, and then you do those tasks, take down Skynet, and then Kyle goes through, and then it's Catherine, and I wish I could remember that guy's name. Was it Darian? I don't want to say it wrong. I can't remember right this minute. Sorry, guys. I'll do a short once I find out. I may do a short on it, or I may just leave it alone as is. These videos, sometimes I just don't go scripted, and I don't script anything. I don't have any notes most of the time, unless I'm doing like a really, 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 really long video, like an hour or something like that, or close to an hour. But nevertheless, you take down Skynet. Like I said, he warps and goes back to 84, and then she gets shot by Alex Stone, and then he says, she's gonna die. Save her, and let her, live, or chase me down and she'll bleed to death. And he's like, life's about choices. And Alex gets away and goes back to his brother Gabriel. But what they didn't realize is the whole task force is there outside of the base for the resistance against the machines, and all eyes are on him and his brother. And that's kind of where the game kind of ends at. So I thought this game was great. I thought it was very interesting. very fun. Most fun I've had with the game in a while. I haven't really been able to play many games, but this game's not too long. It's only maybe close to 4 hours at the most. So if you have never played it, I highly recommend it. And yeah, and if you haven't seen the movies, go watch them movies. Gotta love Arnold as a T-800. So until next time, hasta la vista, baby.